I'm so excited to be here with you today, and I want to begin by asking you a simple question. How do you want to be remembered? You see, respect isn't just something we demand from others, it's something we earn through our actions, our integrity, and the way we show up in the world. But here's the thing, there are habits we may not even realize we're holding on to that are quietly sabotaging the respect we deserve. These habits don't just hinder our growth, they prevent us from stepping into the fullness of who we're called to be. So today I want to talk about 4 habits that we need to remove from our lives if we want to command the respect we've been praying for. Are you ready to be real with yourself? Let's get started. Because it's time to break free from what's holding you back and start living in a way that demands respect. Procrastination is one of the most dangerous habits we can develop because it subtly steals our time, our opportunities, and ultimately our potential. We often convince ourselves that we'll get to things later, but that later never seems to come. We find reasons, distractions, or justifications to put things off. Whether it's a work project, a personal goal, or a dream we've had for years, procrastination leads us to push it all aside and wait for a perfect moment that never arrives. The truth is, there is no perfect time. The perfect moment never happens. Every day that you delay is a day that you could have been closer to your goal, a day that you could have been better, stronger, smarter. Each day spent procrastinating takes us further from the life we are capable of living and the respect we are striving to earn. And it's not just about the big task or the long-term goals. Procrastination also shows up in the small moments. The emails we don't reply to, the calls we don't make, the decisions we keep avoiding. We delay and we delay, hoping that somehow things will resolve themselves without our active involvement. But the reality is nothing changes until we take action. There are many reasons we procrastinate, but most of them boil down to fear. We fear failure, so we avoid taking the first step. We fear judgment, so we put off sharing our ideas. We fear success because deep down we may not feel worthy of it. And sometimes it's just that we feel overwhelmed by how much we need to do. It's easier to put it off than to face the mountain ahead of us. But procrastination doesn't make that mountain smaller. In fact, it only makes it grow taller and more intimidating until the thought of tackling it becomes paralyzing. What we fail to realize is that procrastination is the enemy of progress. Every moment we spend in hesitation is a moment we could have spent learning, improving, or growing. Imagine how much further you would be in your personal and professional life if you had removed procrastination from the equation. How many opportunities would you have seized? How many doors would have opened up? When we delay, we give up control of our future. We allow ourselves to be swept away by circumstances, letting time slip through our fingers without making it count. But the cycle of procrastination can be broken. It requires self-awareness and commitment. The first step is to recognize when procrastination is at play. Sometimes we justify our procrastination with the thought that we'll work better under pressure, but that's just another form of avoidance. In reality, working under pressure creates stress, which can lead to burnout and poor performance. The more you act, the more you will feel empowered to continue, and the less procrastination will take hold. It's also crucial to understand that perfectionism fuels procrastination. Waiting for the perfect moment to start or for things to be exactly right is a trap. Perfection is an illusion, and it's often the fear of imperfection that holds us back. Instead of waiting for everything to line up perfectly, focus on progress. Take imperfect action. The first step, even if it's messy, is always better than no step at all. You can course correct along the way, but you can't do anything if you're stuck in indecision. The simple act of starting, of taking that first step, breaks the cycle of procrastination and gives you the momentum you need to keep going. Another way to combat procrastination is to break down large tasks into smaller, more manageable pieces. One of the reasons we procrastinate is because we see a task as too daunting, too overwhelming. But when we break it down into smaller actions, it feels more achievable. Focus on one step at a time. Rather than the entire task, celebrate small wins, because those small wins will give you the confidence to keep going. Additionally, creating a routine and sticking to it is a powerful tool in overcoming procrastination. When you develop habits of discipline and consistency, procrastination has less room to take root. Set specific time-bound goals for yourself and prioritize tasks based on their importance. Use tools like to-do lists, calendars, and reminders to keep yourself on track. Hold yourself accountable. When you create structure in your day, it becomes easier to avoid distractions and focus on what truly matters. Another factor that contributes to procrastination is lack of motivation. Sometimes we procrastinate simply because we don't feel like doing the task at hand. We may not find it exciting, or we may not see the immediate benefit. But motivation is something you can create. It's about connecting with the deeper why behind the task. What will this task bring into your life once completed? How will it move you closer to your goals? When you focus on the bigger picture, you'll find the motivation to push past temporary discomfort. You may not always feel motivated in the moment, but your commitment to your long-term success will push you forward. It's important to remember that breaking the habit of procrastination is not an overnight process. It requires consistent effort, self-compassion, and the willingness to step outside of your comfort zone. There will be days when you slip up, but that's not the end. The key is to get back on track as soon as possible, to not allow one setback to turn into a permanent pattern of avoidance. Building momentum and creating positive habits takes time. But the more you show up, the more consistent you become, and the more you reinforce the habit of action. You also have to learn to deal with the discomfort of starting. Starting anything is often the hardest part, and it's easy to want to avoid that initial discomfort, but embracing that discomfort is a sign of growth. You have to realize that it's normal to feel resistance when beginning something new or difficult, but you also have to remind yourself that you are capable of pushing through it. You've done hard things before, and you can do hard things now. The more you get comfortable with discomfort, the easier it becomes to tackle challenges head on. Another tool in overcoming procrastination is accountability. Share your goals with someone who will hold you accountable, whether that's a mentor, a friend, or a colleague. When someone else is aware of your goals, it adds a layer of responsibility that can push you to take action. Having someone to check in with can provide motivation and help you stay focused. Procrastination may feel like a small habit, but its impact is massive. It holds us back from reaching our full potential, prevents us from earning the respect we deserve, and wastes the precious time we've been given. Breaking free from this habit is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. You owe it to yourself to take that first step, to start delaying your success, and to start living with intention, purpose, and discipline. The more you commit to taking action today, the more you will find that procrastination loses its grip on you, and respect will naturally follow. Making excuses is one of the most common and insidious ways we sabotage our progress. We've all been guilty of it at some point, blaming external circumstances, shifting responsibility to others, or using our past as a reason for why we can't move forward. But the truth is, excuses are nothing but a shield that protects us from facing the reality of our own shortcomings. The more we rely on excuses, the more we limit ourselves and hold ourselves back from the greatness that lies within us. At the core of every excuse is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, or fear of stepping into something unknown. When we make excuses, we are essentially saying that we are too afraid or incapable to try. But what we don't realize is that excuses keep us in a cycle of complacency. They stop us from challenging ourselves, from taking risks, and from taking control of our own destiny. They allow us to stay stuck in a place where we feel comfortable even though we may be unhappy or unfulfilled. The danger of excuses is that they are often subtle. They don't always come across as blatant lies or deliberate attempts to avoid responsibility. Sometimes we make excuses because we genuinely believe them. We tell ourselves that we don't have enough time, enough resources, or enough knowledge. We convince ourselves that the timing isn't right or that we're just not ready yet. We might even say things like, I'll do it when I feel more confident. Or these excuses are sneaky because they sound rational on the surface, but they are rooted in a fear of failure or a lack of belief in our own abilities. One of the most common excuses we make is that we don't have enough time. We live in a world that's busy, fast-paced, and demanding, so it's easy to feel like there's never enough time to do everything we want to do. But the truth is, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. The difference between successful people and those who struggle is how they choose to use their time. The real question is not whether we have enough time, but whether we are prioritizing the right things. We all have things that distract us, whether it's social media, television, or other unimportant tasks. But if we are serious about our goals and the respect we want to earn, we need to stop letting those distractions consume our time. We need to start making intentional choices about where we spend our energy and our focus. If something is important enough to us, we will find the time for it. And if we truly want to break free from the habit of making excuses, we must commit to managing our time effectively. Another excuse we often make is that we lack the resources or skills necessary to succeed. We might tell ourselves that we don't have enough money to start a business, enough connections to get ahead, or enough experience to excel in a particular field. But again, this excuse is a way of avoiding responsibility. Yes, resources are important, but they are not the ultimate determinant of success. The truth is that we can often create the resources we need if we are willing to be resourceful. When we focus on what we don't have, we block ourselves from seeing the opportunities that are right in front of us. We forget that there are people we can reach out to for advice, free resources online, or low-cost ways to get started. Success doesn't always require a vast amount of capital or a network of influential people. It requires determination, creativity, and a willingness to take the first step, no matter how small. Another excuse that holds many of us back is the belief that we are not ready or that we are not good enough yet. We might tell ourselves that we need to learn more, gain more experience, or wait for the perfect moment. But the reality is that we are never truly ready. There will always be challenges, obstacles, and uncertainty. No amount of preparation will ever guarantee that things will go perfectly. The key is not waiting for the perfect moment, but learning how to take action in the face of uncertainty. By taking action, we begin to build confidence, gain experience, and learn the skills we need along the way. If we keep waiting for everything to be perfect, we will never move forward. We will remain stuck in a perpetual state of inaction, making excuses for why now isn't the right time. One of the most dangerous aspects of making excuses is how it impacts our mindset. Every time we make an excuse, we reinforce the belief that we are not capable of taking control of our circumstances. We convince ourselves that we are at the mercy of external factors and that our success is determined by forces outside of our control. This mindset becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more we make excuses, the more powerless we feel and the less we believe in our ability to change our situation. Over time, this belief can lead to a deep sense of frustration, helplessness, and resignation. We stop trying because we convince ourselves that we can't succeed, so we don't even attempt to move forward. The antidote to this mindset is ownership. Instead of blaming others or external circumstances, we need to take full responsibility for our lives and our choices. Owning our actions means acknowledging that we have the power to shape our future, regardless of what has happened in the past. It means taking ownership of our decisions, even when things don't go as planned. It means accepting that setbacks and failures are a natural part of the process, and that we can learn from them rather than using them as excuses to quit. When we take ownership, we stop seeing ourselves as victims of our circumstances and start seeing ourselves as active participants in creating the life we want. Taking responsibility also means owning our time, our energy, and our focus. We must stop giving away our power to excuses. Every time we say, I don't have time, I'm not good enough, or I can afford it, we are giving up our control over the situation. Instead, we must train ourselves to ask better questions. Questions that focus on solutions and action rather than problems and limitations. Instead of saying, I don't have enough time, we should ask ourselves, how can I make time for this? Instead of saying, I don't have the skills, we should ask, what can I do today to improve? These questions put the power back in our hands and shift our mindset from one of limitation to one of possibility. Excuses are a powerful tool for avoiding responsibility, but they come at a great cost. Every excuse we make takes us further from our goals, further from the respect we want to earn, and further from the person we are capable of becoming. We must stop making excuses for why we can't do something and start focusing on what we can do to make it happen. It's time to take full ownership of our lives and our future. The respect we seek will come when we stop making excuses and start taking responsibility for the actions we take today. Negative self-talk is a silent enemy that we often underestimate in its power to hinder our progress and undermine our potential. It's a habit that we might not even recognize as a significant problem until we realize how deeply it affects our confidence, decision-making, and overall sense of self-worth. This type of thinking can manifest in various forms, whether it's thoughts of inadequacy, fear of failure, or constant self-doubt. Over time, negative self-talk can become so ingrained in our minds that it feels normal, and we may start to believe these thoughts are truths about who we are. But here's the reality. Negative self-talk does nothing but limit us. It keeps us from stepping into our full potential and robs us of the ability to earn the respect we desire. One of the most dangerous aspects of negative self-talk is that it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. When we constantly tell ourselves that we're not good enough, not capable enough, or not deserving enough, we begin to believe those thoughts. Belief shapes behavior. If we don't believe in our abilities, we're less likely to take action or pursue opportunities that could help us grow. We start to play small, avoid challenges, and doubt our every move. Over time, this reinforces the idea that we are incapable, even though the reality is that we are far more capable than we give ourselves credit for. This cycle of negative thinking affects not only our personal lives, but also our professional lives. It holds us back from stepping up to leadership roles, taking risks, and pursuing new opportunities. If we're constantly telling ourselves that we're not ready, not qualified, or that others are better than us, we limit our chances for growth and success. We become our own worst critics, and in doing so, we block the respect and recognition that we're trying to earn. One of the most pervasive forms of negative self-talk is the inner critic, the voice in our head that constantly tells us that we're not enough. It compares us to others and convinces us that we don't measure up. This voice can be incredibly loud, and often it's rooted in our past experiences, failures, or criticisms we've received from others. The more we listen to this inner critic, the more we start to internalize these negative beliefs about ourselves. The truth is that these negative thoughts often have no basis in reality. They are projections of our insecurities, fears, and doubts. When we allow them to dominate our mindset, we end up creating a false narrative about who we are. The damage caused by negative self-talk doesn't end with just how we view ourselves. It extends to how we interact with others and how they perceive us. People are drawn to those who are confident, positive, and self-assured. When we constantly speak negatively about ourselves, it sends a signal to others that we lack confidence or self-respect. This in turn makes it harder for us to earn the respect we desire from others. Why would someone respect us if we don't even respect ourselves? If we are constantly putting ourselves down, we are inadvertently teaching others to do the same. Respect starts with self-respect. When we don't value ourselves, it becomes difficult for others to see our worth. Another critical point about negative self-talk is that it breeds fear and paralysis. We talk ourselves out of taking action because we're so consumed with thoughts of failure or fear of making a mistake. But the reality is that making mistakes is a natural part of growth. No one achieves success without experiencing some form of failure along the way. However, negative self-talk convinces us that we are incapable of overcoming failure, or that failure defines. It's this fear of failure that paralyzes us and prevents us from moving forward. When we stop taking action because we're afraid of failing, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to learn, grow, and ultimately succeed. Every time we avoid taking action due to self-doubt, we give up a chance to prove to ourselves and others that we are capable. Overcoming negative self-talk isn't about magically silencing the inner critic. It's about acknowledging these thoughts and learning to challenge and replace them with more empowering beliefs. One of the first steps in this process is developing self-awareness. We need to start paying attention to the thoughts we have about ourselves, especially in moments of self-doubt or insecurity. By identifying the negative patterns of thinking, we can begin to break them down and replace them with thoughts that align with our true potential. The key is not to avoid negative thoughts altogether, but to acknowledge them and consciously choose not to let them define us. A powerful way to challenge negative self-talk is through affirmations. When we consistently tell ourselves positive, empowering statements, we begin to rewire our brains to believe them. For example, instead of saying, "I'm not good enough," we can replace it with, "I am capable and worthy of success." The more we begin to believe them, and over time, the negative self-talk loses its grip on us. Affirmations are a tool for shifting our mindset from one of limitation to one of empowerment. Another way to counter negative self-talk is to focus on our past successes and strengths. Whenever we start doubting ourselves, we should take a moment to reflect on times when we have overcome challenges, achieved goals, or demonstrated resilience. Reminding ourselves of our past accomplishments helps reinforce the belief that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way. It's important to celebrate our wins, no matter how small they may seem, because they serve as evidence that we are capable of more than we give ourselves credit for. Another important aspect of overcoming negative self-talk is surrounding ourselves with positive, supportive people. The people we spend time with have a huge impact on how we see ourselves. If we are constantly surrounded by people who reinforce negative beliefs or who bring us down, it can be hard to break free from the cycle of self-doubt. On the other hand, when we surround ourselves with people who uplift us, encourage us, and believe in our potential, it becomes easier to believe in ourselves as well. Positive relationships create an environment where we feel empowered to take risks, make mistakes, and grow without fear of judgment or criticism. Additionally, practicing self-compassion is a critical component of silencing the inner critic. Too often, we are our own harshest critics, expecting perfection from ourselves and beating ourselves up when we don't meet our own high standards. But self-compassion involves treating ourselves with the same kindness, understanding, and patience that we would offer to a close friend. Instead of criticizing ourselves when we make a mistake, we can learn to be gentle with ourselves and use that experience as a stepping stone for growth. By practicing self-compassion, we create an environment where we feel safe to try, fail, and try again without the constant fear of judgment or inadequacy. Negative self-talk is a barrier to achieving our goals, earning the respect we desire, and ultimately stepping into the person we are meant to become. It limits our potential and keeps us trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and fear. But by recognizing these negative thoughts, challenging them, and replacing them with more empowering beliefs, we can break free from the grip of the inner critic. When we begin to speak to ourselves with the same kindness, encouragement, and belief that we would offer to a loved one, we unlock the potential to achieve more, be more, and earn the respect we deserve.